Hi everyone, we're back. Welcome back. Hope you had a good break and that you're ready for some more content because we have an awesome panel coming up. So we've got a panel that's called Rising Tides, filling the education gap in localization through mentorship and coaching. So this is something that I actually personally really believe in. So I'm very excited to see what and listen, of course, to what these individuals are going to have to say. Hey there, Tucker. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. Hello.
Great. So this is going to be an awesome panel. I know it is. I'm going to let you introduce everyone on the panel, and then I will hop back in later on when it's time. But if you need anything, just wave your arms, make a sign. I'll jump back in and try and help out.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Tucker.
for those of you in the audience, I understand that if you'd like to ask questions live during the panel, raise your hand. I won't be able to see it, but Brian is over here helping us out. He's going to be moderating all of that stuff. We've got an exciting panel here for you today, guys. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tucker Johnson. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Nimdzi Insights. We do market research and consulting for the language services industry. I'm also involved with Multilingual Media, which publishes Multilingual Magazine, and I'm the author of The General Theory of the Translation Company. Lots of stuff. I'm just trying to qualify myself here. Like, who is this guy and why is he up here moderating this discussion? And the reality of it is I'm up here moderating this discussion because one of the panelists, Yuka, asked me to. And thank you. So first of all, I'd like to start off by thanking Yuka for allowing me to do this, as well as all of our other panels. Throughout my career, I've had some great managers and mentors, and I really owe a lot to them. And I like to think that I try my best to help guide people on our industry who may benefit from it, because I personally owe a lot to the people that came before me. And today I'm moderating this discussion with 4 established leaders in their respective niches in this industry who have found themselves in a similar situation. Everybody on this stage has been coached, mentored, managed, guided by those that came before them. And today we can hopefully brainstorm together on how we can pay that forward together as individuals and as an industry. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists. I'm just going to go around here rather than opening it up for everybody to introduce themselves. I'd like to start with Kris, Girrell. I will say interrupt me if I slaughter anybody's names, if I mispronounce anybody's names.
You got it right.
All right, so Kris Girrell. Kris is just, I had the opportunity to meet Kris last week for the first time, and just a very interesting character, very dynamic person. He's the principal owner at Innerwork Consulting. He's an executive coach, he's an author, he's a speaker, does lots of leadership consulting, but really specializing on cultural intelligence and leadership assessment. We also have Michal, who just joined the stage. Perfect timing, I'm introducing you, sir. He's a senior localization leader with over 15 years of successful international team and program management experience at technology companies, specializing in strategic localization operations in EMEA and Asia Pacific region. He's a lead by example type of guy, focusing on team empowerment, constant innovation, and operational excellence. He is currently serving the industry as senior localization manager at PayPal. And next we have Yuka Nakasone, who I've already introduced, but I'm going to tell a little bit more. She's the chief strategist at Globalization and an industry veteran. Yuka's, I've been talking quite a bit with Yuka recently. She's got a lot of good stuff to say. And she recently became a certified, which I'm going to let you talk a little bit about later, Yuka. I don't want to steal your thunder here. And last but not least, Allison Ferch, who is, of course, the executive director over at Gala, which is, as you all know, the Globalization and Localization Association. She's got a lot of good stuff, particularly from the association and networking standpoint there. So lots of expertise on the stage. We do have limited time, so I'd like to dive right in. I'm going to be moderating, which is to say that asking questions, keeping the conversation going, but please, audience, feel free to jump in with questions, either in the chat or raise your hand so Brian can bring you up here live. And likewise, guys, engage with each other. I'll know I've done a great moderation job if I don't have to say a single thing this whole time. The conversation just keeps going. So don't be shy. To start off, hot topic, let's define our terms. We're talking about mentorship and coaching in the language services industry. What is the difference between a mentor and a coach? And I'm going to throw this one over to you, Yuka, because we've already kind of talked a little bit about this. And I know you have quite a bit to say here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice
And I will
seeing you.
ask everybody that's just not talking, just please mute
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice seeing you, and thank you for coming to the session, because this is a very exciting session that we don't talk about coaching and mentoring too much. I mean, there are lots of mentoring programs in some organizations in the industry, but I didn't hear any sessions around conferences. I may be wrong, but I didn't hear much. So that's the reason why we wanted to pull out to talk about it in public. What's the difference and what we can do, and what's the and coaching and mentoring. First of all, let's put it something visual. Coaching is to take somebody to attain the goal, but holding the mirrors.
Okay.
Meaning, holding the mirrors. So the answer should be in the person you're talking to, the person you're coaching.
Mhm.
So the person should be coachable, which means they have to be accepting and receptive and reflective, and draw the answers from within. See?
So
And
a
if
coach
you
is
can,
more about like unleashing potential from inside of a person.
yes,
Is what
and if you can listen to a person, if you can ask good questions to navigate toward the goal, and if you can care, you can be a coach,
Okay.
right?
So that's a coach.
Okay, so that's the kind of one of the definitions. Maybe Michelle has another definition, but this was this is my definition. A mentor, on the other side, there's a advisor's piece coming in. Somebody who already attained that goal, who already went through the path, guiding through the path that person is going through.
So someone with actual
sometimes,
experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
is that what you're trying to say? Or is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. We have to have, mentor has to have the experience of attaining that goal, already done that, been there, done that kind of person.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Done that. And trying to make them avoid the pitfalls or mistakes, common mistakes, because usually we know from our experiences that what we don't have to do, rather than not saying this is the way, this is not the way, because there are
Okay.
pitfalls here and there,
Okay.
so that's
Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, that's a kind of definition I have. And Kris is saying
so can I just add
Yeah,
to
I
that?
see it, Kris.
yeah.
So both of them, Tucker, both a mentor and a coach have real actual experience. The difference being that the mentor is a subject matter expert on the cultural terrain of corporations, of LSPs, of vendors, of all the different iterations in the industry. They know the territory, and so they can explain what it takes to go from here to here. Experience. What the coach's real experience is, I'm an expert on how people learn. I never claim to be a CEO, and I and presidents all the time. It's not that I have sat in that seat. It's that I know how to learn what those people need to learn. And I can teach that process by the way I question and the way that I pull things out. So two completely different functions around the same desire to move forward in one's career. Are you getting some of it? You'll get through the mentor, who knows the markers on the blazes on the trail, and knows which way to go. The unfortunate problem in both of those areas is there are far too few mentors and far too few coaches who really have experience in driving people through their own career development. And as Yuka and I were talking about this subject, what we're trying to do is see if we can elevate more people into the role of peer coaching, because we do have a dearth of mentors. By the way, how's the sound level on here? I just need to check because I'm in a public space.
Horrible. We can hear everything.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We can hear you just fine. We can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, good.
Excellent points. Excellent points. And I like to use the sports analogy of you don't have to be the best quarterback in the league in order to coach a team to victory at the Super Bowl. That's a very American analogy. Maybe someone else has something. Allison, what are your thoughts on all this?
I'd like to add that those are one-on-one relationships, generally speaking. I think mentorship can also be done in small groups. But I also want to call people's attention to the value of unstructured coaching and unstructured mentorship that can happen in a peer group or in a community. And for me, coming from Gala, community is the heart of associations. And one of the things that we try to do is bring people together so that they can share with one another, learn, inspire each other. And that's informal, which can have wonderful outcomes too.
I agree. My challenge with informal is, like, how do I find informal? Like, there's no website for informal, right? Well, there's the Gala website, right? There's you can go to Gala events and Gala webinars and build community there. But informal, for me, I like informal because everyone involved kind of has to work for it. If it's informal, nothing's handed to you. There's no app that just connects people with mentors, mentees, and I haven't seen anything. I've seen it situations where it's too easy to get paired up with a mentor or a mentee. It doesn't really do that well because nobody really had to work for it. It's just my personal opinion. Michal, you've been quiet over there.
I've been quiet. I was like,
well, I haven't called you on you. Sorry.
State of shock because my computer decided to throw a blue screen when I was signing up.
That's about right.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, I think one area that we also need to keep in mind is that there is also this whole area of coaching that's about coaching the entire teams. So it's not only peer and unstructured, right? It's also actually very structured, kind of working together through whole teams on addressing their dynamics, on growing them, on making them realize how they can benefit from their strengths, or how they can eliminate their weaknesses, their dysfunctions, right? To basically become better, stronger. And that coupled with the individual coaching, that really shows the power.
But let's qualify that really quickly for those that may not understand. What you say peer-to-peer coaching? Define that. What is that? What are we talking about when we're talking about peer-to-peer coaching?
I just alluded to what Allison said, right?
Oh, okay.
She mentioned informal peer kind of.
Okay, so the same thing.
More formalized, but working with whole teams rather than just with individuals. Because teams, like individuals, they have their weaknesses they need to work through, they need to realize themselves, they need to resolve within themselves, rather than have somebody come in and just tell them what to do and how to work better.
Which is a really good point. And one of the topics I wanted to cover today, and I'll throw this out there for whoever would like to go first, is what are the differences between coaching or coaching or mentoring, whichever, and the definition that we're using here is coaching is more, cheerleading, guiding, helping someone get towards a goal, right? Mentorship is more of a, someone who's been there, done that, learn from my mistakes type situation. There's a time and place for both. But where is that time and place for both of them? And, well, perhaps this is maybe another question, but where is the overlap between the traditional official manager direct report mentorship? Because there's a certain amount of professional mentorship that by definition goes on between a manager and their employee. And what's the difference between that relationship and an external one? Yes, sir. Kris.
Right.
Go.
So a couple of things that I want to throw into the mix. One is either mentoring or coaching should never be the substitute for a good managee relationship. That should always be the primary source. And wherever you can get coaching from your boss or your upline manager, wherever you can get mentorship from those people upline from you in your position, that's really ideal. The mentor and the coach are often a drop-in. I always see my job as a coach to give the person back to the manager in a better state than what I took them. So there is some overlap, and the overlap is that the manager, him or herself, should be able to mentor and coach. A lot of them aren't trained on that.
Right.
And coaching is not cheerleading. Coaching is really asking. I've never
I knew as soon as I
ever
said
been.
that, I was going to get flack for it. I'm sorry.
But I've never been accused of being a cheerleader. I'm like, people come out of coaching sessions with me and they're sweating,
Yeah.
because we work hard. We ask the tough questions, and really cause them to think.
Which leads me to another question here. And once again, I don't want to monopolize anybody, jump in here, but what is a coach supposed to be making you feel better about yourself, empathetic, nurturing, or is a coach supposed to push you out of your comfort zone and kind of crack the whip? Or is there different coaches for different people?
Yes, and yes.
I think I can try this one. You
There is
have
no
to
try.
think.
You got this. I
Yeah,
know
just do it.
Yuka, because you and I have talked about this quite a bit.
Just do it, right? So the coach shouldn't be seeking to be nice, but true to the person you're coaching, which means maybe you have to say something not nice, but it's good for them, right?
Good.
So yeah, and I have a professional coach coaching me, and it's been for 5 years now, and he never seeks to be nice. And sometimes he calls me on the sideline when we are doing group coaching, and after that he calls me out saying what happened in the session, and it scares me, but
And that's how it should be. You're saying,
yeah,
right? You're saying like that's good because it's leading you to growth.
Yeah, and he always challenges me. So it's not nice, but that's why I grow,
Excellent point. Excellent
Yeah.
point. Who else?
Yeah.
Who else has worked with the coach? Who else has been challenged by a coach? Or not challenged hard enough by a coach on this?
I would say if you're not challenged by a coach, then the coach is really, you shouldn't really be wasting the time there, right? It's not about the coach, perhaps it might be about yourself, but if you're not learning or not getting help from that particular person, from the coach, to get out of your comfort zone, right? Then perhaps you had no reason to start coaching in the first place.
Right.
Maybe there is no reason for me. Go ahead, Kris.
Intuitive is another way of saying it. Intuitive is, if the next step were intuitively obvious to you, you would do it. So what the coach's job is to ask you a question to get you out of the normal way of thinking, the intuitive way of thinking, and challenge your thought, so that you have to invent new ways of doing and being in whatever it is that you're trying to learn. So we're always outside of what seems to be logical. From the outside, if somebody were listening to a coaching session and their normal thought process is, oh, well, the next thing she should do is this, and the next thing after that is that. And then they hear my question, they go like, where are you coming from? Well, where I'm coming from is a counterintuitive place that's pulling them forward in their logic, not taking the next step that's obvious to them.
Allison,
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, Yuka?
at the same time, it's not just counterintuitive. It makes sense what Kris said, but sometimes what we are avoiding going, coach can see it. Because of our personal experiences in the past, or maybe trauma, we don't want to go there. We just avoid unconsciously. And when he sees it, he or she can call it out. And then maybe, there's a breakthrough, something like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to notice, and certainly easier to notice out loud, flaws in other people, things that other people need to improve on rather than ourselves. I find that's true too. It's just, and it's one thing that we've missed with the quarantining is that social feedback from people, just hearing from people, how am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? And we used to get that every day at the office. You make a bad joke and people go, that's social feedback right there. You're just like, oh, wow, I'm not as funny as I thought I was. Right. And nowadays it's like we're all just sitting here, talking to screens, and we're not getting that social feedback. And Allison, I wanted to ask you, because it's kind of leads, and then I'm going to get to some questions here. I just noticed we have questions. That's awesome. Great questions. Makes my job easy. But with the association, this seems like an opportunity where in an informal kind of association setting where you're just around a lot of people networking, these relationships can kind of self-select, and people can kind of fall in with different people who maybe fit their needs. How have you seen that happen organically? How typically would people who are coming to an association like yours, that's what what does that process look like, right? Where do they meet people? How does the conversation start?
It depends on the context. First, I just want to echo what you said, which is that when we're at home, working from home and more isolated, I think coaching and mentoring and what Michal said about team dynamics and team efficiencies and optimization becomes even more important, because everybody's in a bit of like an echo chamber with themselves. And so I'd like to make an appeal to managers and leaders that are on the call to not neglect their teams and not neglect their team's professional development. Coaching is often a topic that is discussed among the C-suite, right? But I think that mentorship and coaching is also really valuable for junior managers or middle managers or people that are just starting their careers. In fact, part of the headline of the title of this session is about, kind of the talent gap. So just to echo what you said, Tucker, I think now is not the time to, protect the investments and cut professional development, but to invest in it. As far as associations go, what I was saying about the context, it's really easy at events when we're in person because you have a lot of informal opportunities. You have meals and breaks, you have social events that are designed for networking. And we've all experienced having, somebody in the chat was referring to resonance. We've all experienced that before, where you feel like, yes, we click, we understand each other, and we're talking about the same challenges. Let's connect again. And so we see that happen a lot at events. Then when we're not meeting in person, we see it happen on an online forum. So at Gala, we have special interest groups. What are, they're small events, let's call them, with like 10, 15, 25 people. And same thing, you can get a sense of a person that you're working on the same challenge, or you really like their style, or you like the way they discussed a particular challenge that they had. So then you make kind of just an informal outreach to them. And I think associations are, you've kind of vetted everybody at the outset because they're there because they care. They care about their own professional development. They care about the growth and development of their company, and they care about the industry. So right off the bat, that people are like-minded in a certain sense.
Excellent points. Thank you, Allison.
To piggyback just on something Allison said, with regard to a lot of times coaching is at the senior level or at the upper management level, and it doesn't seem to reach into the lower levels. The impetus for a lot of what we're talking about here came from the fact that there just isn't any coaching and development for a lot of language service providers, a lot of vendor, people who are at the the line level of doing this, and so what Yuka and I have put together is some starting courses on on how to advance your own career. How do you coach yourself? And how do you develop your own career? What are the critical skills that will help me advance in a language profession or a translation profession, or whatever aspect of the industry I'm in? What are those critical skills, and how do I develop those skills? And not only are we looking towards building coaching, but really self-coaching and self-development as part of that, just because there's such a dearth at those lower levels, as Allison was saying.
Yeah. Anybody is wondering, this is Kris and myself asked by Translation Commons because of the generosity of Allison to host us to present leadership development. We are asked by it was Gala Munich in 2019, yes, March. And then Translation Commons, Jeanette, approached us to develop something for their audience. They have junior people coming in to volunteer and use the platform. And she needed some help to develop these professionals for only starting. So Kris and myself have helped some content, and including competency model for language industry for Translation Commons. It is available there for free. If any,
Nice. Go check it out. And that's one thing that, when we started off, we were talking about, there's not as many coaches out there. We need coaches. We need mentors, right? There's not enough role models out there who are willing to give their time. And I believe you when you say that, but it seems to me like I don't know. It seems to me like when I go on Facebook or Clubhouse or LinkedIn or anything, everybody's a freaking coach. And I'm not talking about just this industry. I'm just talking about any freaking 22-year-old with half of a bachelor's degree and enough hair gel can call himself an executive coach and message me on LinkedIn and tell me how to. Okay, calm down, Tucker. Not about you. Comments like how to pick the snake oil salesman from the real coach. Right. And I'm not implying, certainly not implying all coaches and mentors are snake oil salesmen, but there are some out there that are giving folks a bad name. Discuss amongst yourselves. And then I promise we're going to get to the questions. No one wants to talk. No one wants to touch this one.
Because I run into it all the time. I've been coaching longer than we've been using the term coaching. So
right.
This gray hair here is actual real. And
I was going to say that's a selling point for me. Like if you were to come out and say like, hey,
there's no gel, no product in here.
No product.
Either, no?
Exactly. I'm just jealous. It's just Napoleon.
Seriously, Doctor, that's a great question. And the choice of a coach or a mentor is always a personal coach, a personal choice. And you have to pick somebody who you trust enough. And so your interview questions are going to be questions around how do you trust that this person can take you to that uncomfortable place, because they are going to be challenging you. Is this the kind of person that you can trust with that? And so those are the kinds of questions you want to ask. But there's no litmus test that, like the CIA can spot you coming through customs, as a snake oil salesman or as a bad coach. You really need to interview. You need to know what you're looking for and what kind of questions you want to ask. But the main thing is that fit. Is this a person you can trust who will take you to the uncomfortable places?
Trust.
I'd love to hear some of the others take on that.
Yeah, Mikhail, haven't heard from you for a while. What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, it's all about resonance, as somebody put in the chat. It's hard to say. I like to say that for once it is. I don't want to sound ageist, but it is a little bit about that experience that the coach might have picked up, might have gathered through their career, right? It's a little about what I hear through the grapevine. It's really good to talk to your peers to find out who the right people are, right? People they've worked with before. Oftentimes when you're especially if you're if you work on the bigger corporate side, you're already exposed to good coaches, right? You know where to go. But there is no, like Kris said, there is no one size fits solution here. Whoever is good for me might be terrible for somebody else, right? I have my own preferences, and I can only have chemistry with a certain type of people.
Good point. Good point. I would just add, no, I will add because it's short. I would just add, if you're comfortable with your coach, if you leave every session feeling great about yourself and about your career and about the world and about your coach, get a new coach. Get a new coach. All right, let's get to these questions. I promised it. Okay. Kate asks, as someone who's still a student and believes in lifelong learning, it is very important for me to learn from my mentors. But how do we pick our mentors? How do we know there is advice? Their advice is good. And I think that's kind of what we've been talking about, right? But any other, is particularly for students out there. What should students look for? Allison.
Well, I'm going to skirt that direct question and say that I put it in the chat, actually. Gala is starting a student mentorship program. We've got a bunch of really great names in the business, let's just say, who've signed up to be mentors, and we're going to experiment with some small group mentorship cohorts and events, and that's going to start at the end of June. And I think what's tricky for students is that their networks are small to begin with, and
Right.
it may feel like a big risk to reach out to somebody that they don't know yet, even to just try to have a conversation. I think informational interviews are a good way to start, or just to dip your toe in the water in terms of meeting people. If you're curious about what Michal does at PayPal, or how it is working for a big company, a big corporate company, then just reach out and say, hey, I wonder if I could have 20 minutes of your time. I can't tell you how many ad hoc conversations I've had, especially with students or really new professionals that are trying to get a sense of the career paths, or just a way to maybe get established. And I think informational interviews would be a good way. You might have a conversation with Michal and think, not for me, but then you try another one, and you just have to be a little bit brave. It's no offense to Michal, I think he's great.
I was going to say, watch your inbox.
I like him.
Watch your inbox, Michal. She just volunteered you for
No, but I'm
informational
always happy. I've used that in the past, right? Because I realized it's not going to hurt me, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? I'll be ignored, right? The best thing that can happen is I can get 10, 20, 30 minutes, an hour of great time with a great person who will actually help me realize something, learn something. So just, nowadays with LinkedIn, with all that, just reach out. Nothing will happen.
Well, easy to say, right? What does that email look like? What does that LinkedIn message look like? When we say reach out, don't be shy.
I think Allison named it. Allison said it directly. I really like what I see in you, and I'd like to learn. I don't know of people who will reject that kind of a request.
Yeah.
I mean,
saying,
just stop and think about it. Who would reject that?
Yeah, who would reject?
I can
like
talk
what
about my experiences.
If they reject that, you don't want to be working with them anyways, right? It's kind of a litmus test. Excellent question. That's all right. Next one. Thank you, Kate.
I think Yuka had
oh, I'm sorry.
About the
My audio must be messed up. Yuka.
No, I just wanted to add, because reach out and how. I can talk about my experiences because I have many mentors in this industry, and thanks to them, I'm here now. And actually what I do is really observe what they say. And when I like what they say, like Allison said, it's exactly that. I try to start talking about things. And when I'm seeking some kind of answer, I just throw it. And depending on how they react, I can start having more conversations and slowly mentoring and mentorship. So that is a kind of process. It's not like just sending an email, accepting, and let's do it. I don't think so. From my experiences, it's a slow process of getting to know each other and then talking some specific problems or questions, and then maybe it's going to be a little bit longer mentorship. Does it make sense? Yeah.
That makes great sense. I mean, it's about building trust, right? It's not Tinder, right?
Yes.
It's Match.com. I don't know. That was after my dating time. But I mean, it's something that you have to invest into. And I think this day and age, we want everything that we can just have automatically matched with a mentor as an app. That would be the expectation these days, right? And it's not that easy. It takes time. It's like dating. All right, next question. Guna, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Guna Grammatiniese. How to avoid subjectivity or restrictions of thinking of the mentor? Meaning, if mentor will have an opinion that something doesn't work, mentee might overtake that belief as well, having the capacity. So I believe this is talking about like how do you deal with situations where a mentor's unconscious or conscious biases get transferred onto the mentee? Unconscious or conscious inefficiencies too. I mean, it doesn't have to be biases. It can be inefficiencies, inadequacies of any form. I know, right? That's a good question. I would say that's nobody. Okay, well, I'm the moderator. Shut up, Tucker.
I can try. No, not try.
Go for it. Yeah.
I mean, I said I have many people guiding me. So
it's the wisdom and the multitude of counselors, right?
yeah, usually I have several opinions about one question. So
that's valuable.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really rely on just one person. It's going to be a burden to that person as well. And mentorship is really a give and take. I mentor people as well, but I get by mentoring because it gives me the opportunities to go through their problems and think about it from a different perspective or from my experiences, and that gives me some more, let's say, experiences as well. And I guess the answer is it's not just it's not a marriage. Let's say.
Well, it's yeah.
You know,
it's a polyamorous
so
relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Like
and actually you have to say that if you feel like somebody is coming from their prejudice or something feels wrong, you have to be able to say it. And that's the relationship you have to build. Like,
right. Well,
really trusted relationship. Like you can say, hey, I don't think it's right, you know.
And right? I think we don't have to agree.
And one of the differences with coaching is that I have no opinion.
Right.
You know, and
that might be one of the differences between a coach and a mentor right there.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't have an opinion on what the right choice to do is. I'm going to ask you, you know, what are the possibilities? You know, when we're coaching somebody, what we're trying to do is break down the, you know, the associations, the biases, the, you know, the internal structure of how the if then, you know, if this is my situation, then I have to do that. And when we're trying to coach somebody to create a new possibility, the first thing we have to do is break that you know, assumption that this is the way, this is the only choice I have, you know, like doing my job, doing my career the way I'm doing it is the only way I can do it. And the coach is there saying, well, what else? You know, are there other possibilities? And we brainstorm possibilities, and I may have a sense that one's going to be more productive than another, and I can probably steer the questioning that direction. But at the end, it's really the client's, you know, the client's choice, and I'm going to go with what. So they'll say, well, I think this is the best choice. I go, okay, so how many by when? You know, so what are you going to do, and what's your by when? And then I hold them to that, you know, accountability. And if it doesn't work, then we switch, we move to the next possibility, and so on. But I think the difference is the mentor, having gone down the trail, has some prejudged ideas of what works and what doesn't work. I don't. And so, I mean, that's going to be one of the main differences. And substantively, you know, the mentor and the coach are not doing the same job. They're doing two completely different things. One is helping the person to build their own repertoire of behaviors and think outside their own box. The other is getting advice from career subject matter experts on what works in this corporation, in this industry, in this situation. And so it's very specific and it's very subject related, as opposed to the generic developmental orientation of coaching.
Excellent points. Next, I'm going to go to the next question. We're going to start rapid fire here because there's so many good questions. Gary Leffman, if your coach or mentor was a movie star, no, we're going to close with that one. I want to do that one as a lightning round. So everyone get ready. If your coach or mentor was a movie star, who would that be and why? Christopher, it's great if you find a coach or mentor, but if you're like the great majority, most can't find a great mentor. Do you have any advice? Okay. On self-directed coaching. Oh, here's the question. Do you have any advice on self-directed coaching? And Allison, like Yuka, you mentioned the e-learning or the workshops that you're putting together. There's a lot of good virtual stuff coming out now. I know virtual learnings, virtual courses, virtual workshops. What are some other resources out there for self-directed learners? And as that word's coming out of my mouth, that's kind of an oxymoron, self-directed coaching, right? It's kind of defeating the purpose, isn't it, of what we're talking about today. Is there a way to do self-directed coaching?
Kris?
Yes, there is, and I think it is something that we want to talk about is self-development. Okay. You know, and what, you know, what a person, you know, needs to learn is, you know, that we only do because of what we see and the judgments we make about what we see. That's the whole of human psychology is in that one sentence. People only do what they do because of what they perceive and the meaning they affix to that. So if you're self-coaching, then what you're trying to say is there another meaning? Is there another path? Is there something else I can do outside of what I already know how to do? And so all these resources that you're pointing to, Tucker, I think are great online services, online resources. And the person who's challenging themselves to self-development or self-coaching is really looking for what's going to challenge, push me beyond what I currently know.
Very eloquently put. Now I feel like a jerk for saying that it was an oxymoron.
Oh, come on. No, it's not an oxymoron. And it's not jerky to say it's oxymoron because it does. You know, what we started off saying was that coaching was counterintuitive and that extra person, you know, and that still stands when you're trying to do your own coaching. I mean, I'm a lifelong, somebody mentioned that she's a student or just graduating and she's a lifelong learner. I'm 72, I'm still taking courses, you know, and I'm a lifelong learner and still challenging myself to learn the next thing and the next thing after that. You know, never stop.
Never stop learning.
I'll just add just one more thing there, right? So like reading, I'm a very inquisitive person. Reading, going to different, like, you know, text talks, all these sources are wonderful, but they will never replace one thing that it like an external coach, another person will do, which is actually being outside of your body and taking a look at you from the outside, right? we are myopic. We do have tunnel vision, especially when it comes to ourselves. And the things that I've learned from coaches about myself, they were sometimes very painful, but they really focused me on things I had no idea. I had no idea about myself, right? So
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely
like
right on.
self-coaching work, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Michal. Next,
And I want
keeping
to
myself from jumping in too. Oh, Yuka, go.
yeah, I want to
And then we're
add
going to go to the next question.
yeah, something what Allison said at the beginning, that other resources to do it is just talking about it. And we have lots of communities, including Ghana, of course, and we have all these peers hanging together in lunch or drinks or conferences like this, and talking about it, I think it makes difference.
I absolutely agree. And I will just say one thing. Like, I have especially noticed during 2020 how lucky, how fortunate I am to have a team that was remote first all the way, right? So like, I didn't get yanked away from my team. Like, we've always been remote first, and we have a very, very active chat channel, right? Full of like BS and gossip and funny pictures, and also full of coaching and mentorship, and just supporting each other, so you never know where it's going to come from. All right, next question before. Can we mentor someone, even if we believe we haven't come that far ourselves to become a mentor, but there are some people who see us in that light?
Mm-hmm.
Allison.
I'm just going to say like 2 words: imposter syndrome. We talked about
Right.
that together when we were doing our prep call for this. And I think each one of us said that we all have suffered from it, either currently or from time to time. I think that you can learn from lots of people. We've seen in the chat, Gary's talking about almost this like barter arrangement where I'll teach you internationalization best practices and you teach me biz ops and negotiation and sales or whatever. You can learn something from anybody. And if maybe the fit isn't what you're looking for at that moment. So maybe that's not going to satisfy your current challenge or the area where you want to grow in that moment. But I would say don't doubt that. It's just a matter of finding the right fit, something that you can offer to somebody else, and maybe there's something that they can offer to you that you're short, that you perceive to be you're short on, knowledge in a particular area. I don't know if that made sense.
No, it makes perfect sense to me.
Absolutely. And again, coming back to I think some of the learning experiences I've ever had have been going to a conference, listening to a really great keynoter or breakout session leader, and then just hanging outside the door and until that person came out and said, "Can I continue this conversation with you? Because what you said about this and this, and get into it." And I've had 2-hour conversations on the staircase, with people, just learning from them because they struck a note in their presentation. So never overlook a good conference or online course or something like that as a way to find a mentor.
Excellent points. Anybody else? All right, let's get into this lightning round. Well, we have 10 minutes left, but Lord knows how long this is going to take. If your coach was a movie star, who would it be and why? You guys have had time to think about this. I haven't had a chance to look at the chats yet, so I poked over there. Good conversation going on in the chats. Thanks for that, guys. Who's going first?
I'll start because somebody came to mind right away, and it's Emma Thompson.
Ooh, okay.
Do we know Emma Thompson? I think for me, and I'm going to skip half the things that are important because this list could go on and on and on. She, to me, exemplifies wisdom with age. And so a person who's aging gracefully and is, sort of reaching that era, that period of her life where she's just wise. She's learned a lot of stuff. She's a feminist. She's funny. She has a pretty interesting history and life experience where you know that she's had her share of ups and downs. She's successful, into her 6th decade, I guess. So I'll stop there. Yeah, I like her. I'd love to sit down with her or invite her to a girls' weekend or something like that.
Wine and cheese party.
Yep.
Invite me too. I'm right here. I'm in Seattle with you. Kris.
Okay.
Hot seat.
I was going to say, oh man, there's so many choices. I would pick Arnold Schwarzenegger just because of his accent, but
That's awesome.
I'm joking. I really, the more I think about it, Tom Hanks, because of his versatility, because he has this ability to be credible, whether he's playing Sully, the pilot that landed in the Hudson River, or Big, a boy that grew up too fast. Like he plays every role as if that role was him, or that he was that person. Matt Damon's another one who does that. Robin Williams was somebody who did that. But, like Tom Hanks probably is superior to in terms of his ability to morph himself to the situation and become the role. And I wish I had that kind of versatility to my personality. I'm kind of a one size fits all, I'm a hammer and you're a nail. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
We're going to put it together, right?
Well, that's why they call it acting, right?
Yeah, right. But it's not. So there's a group in Boston called the Aerial Group, a little plug for them,
Okay.
that are professional actors that teach executives that acting is not fake. It's not acting. It's actually being able to assume a characteristic that is the necessary characteristic for the situation. And leaders need to be able to do that. And so these professional actors actually teach a method acting to execs so that they're getting better and better at being able to be the executive needed in the situation.
I can't say that I disagree with the need for that, because that sounds like a very useful thing. But I'm just like, really? We need to take acting classes? All right, next, Yuka. You can pass this if you want. It's
No.
just a silly question. But I think it's a good one. I think it provides some insight
Yeah,
into what we would look for.
the movie star, right? Keanu, of
I was
course,
going to say Keanu Reeves. I like that one. I was thinking
because he's extremely successful. It's not because I want to go for lunch with him or have a coffee with him. It's not that, because he's extremely successful, but he's really humble, and
Right.
he overcame so many adversities in the life. So I would say so.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say Keanu Reeves too, just for that, because I was trying to think of someone who's made it and successful, but is still really nice. And everyone says he's just really nice. He's super real. He married a woman his age, like all of these things that like powerful men in Hollywood don't typically do. And it was like, he's kept his humanity. So I like that. Michal. No, we're passing. We're skipping. Okay. Next question then.
Just having issues unmuting this thing.
Okay.
It's just, again, my computer playing up. This is a tough one, right? Because I think a lot of, especially movie stars, we don't really, I mean, the biggest ones you do hear probably more about their lives than you want to hear about, but for very many of them, we just don't know the details, right? So I will just concentrate, and I'll just talk about the one that I like the most, my favorite actor of all times, right? And that's Bill Murray. And I know he is known for throwing tantrums. I know he is, maybe not the easiest person, but like to be with. But on the movie star scale, he's probably not really bad either, right? And just to end it on a lighter note, we're all localization people here, and that role that he played in in Lost in Translation is just brilliant, just brilliant. I would never miss it for a world. I would love to talk about this for weeks.
Very good. All right, that was our lightning round here, and I think this is probably a good place to start wrapping it up here. You know way more about us now because I think that was basically just a verbal Rorschach test we went through, trying. So by who we would want to be mentored by, I think that tells us a lot about us, but it also tells you guys that are listening perhaps what you might want to be looking for in a coach or in a mentor. And it's not always who has the best website. It's not always the usual subject, you know, the people who you see speaking at conferences, the people that you see, you know, it doesn't have to be those people. And it starts just by reaching out, talking, building relationships. And that's something that you can do right now. Like that's something that you're doing right now. Like I just clicked over to the chat really quickly and you guys are having conversations. You're talking. You're not letting something like a global freaking pandemic stopping you from building your networks, building relationships, building trust with people. And that's what I always say typically is I'm not so concerned about mentorship. I'm not so concerned about coaching, but I am concerned about making friends. I am concerned about making connections and building strong relationships. And I think if you do that, you know, tomorrow I'm going to go out to lunch with a mentor that I've known for a long time, but I call her a friend, right? And with that, I'd like to thank each and every one of you on the panel today. Brian is here. He's going to start playing the music, getting the cane to pull us off stage. So thank you all for doing this. And once again, thank you, Yuka, for roping us into this, and to our host for hosting this wonderful conversation.